Hello there, people of YouTube land. Once again, it is I, the Tommy Messiah, and yes, it's Thursday. Usually that means an anime video, but the only things anime related that I could really talk about that would really be worth talking about this week is the fact that Code Geass has finally had a sequel series announced. But the problem is, I haven't finished watching Code Geass Lelouch of the Rebellion. So, I feel that I wouldn't exactly be best suited to talking about an upcoming Code Geass series. But, instead, I'm going to be talking about something else. It's not anime related, but it is something that is quite important to me. I am talking about the first game that I ever played online, which was Halo 3. And the rest of the Halo series. Now, the Halo series is something that I'm pretty sure a lot of people nowadays are familiar with. If you're an Xbox player, then you've probably played at least one of the games. If you're a PlayStation player, then you've probably been hearing a lot about Halo and wondering what all the fuss is about. And if you're a Nintendo player, you're probably thinking this. You're probably in the same boat. But yeah, so I figured that today I would do a video about my history with the Halo series. Now here's the thing: I was originally going to do this sort of video a few weeks ago, on the 15th anniversary of Halo Combat Evolved and Xbox. However, the problem that I had, and which is why the video has kind of been postponed to today, is because I didn't really have any footage that I could use over the gameplay. But since I'm just using footage from the last Halo Let's Play that I did, which I've just muted, and I'm now doing a new voiceover for. So, with that out of the way, let's talk about my history with Halo. Now, the first time that I actually played Halo, it was one time when I was at my uncle's house. Now here's the thing. When I was growing up, when I was about 5 or 6 years old, my parents split up. They still talk nowadays, but it was just they basically just decided to split up. And as you can imagine, it wasn't exactly the easiest transition for a young me. It was actually kind of terrible for all three of us. But we've gotten used to it now after about 14 years. So yeah, but anyway, and my mum used to work quite a lot. In fact, she still works quite a lot, but there were actually but when I was younger, she mostly worked in the weekends. And however, when I didn't have school and she had to work during the week, she would usually ask my uncle if I could stay around his until she gets back. And I remember one time I went over there, he had the original black Xbox. And there was one game that I remember seeing him play when I arrived at the house, and I was absolutely stunned by it, by the vast open world that this game level took place in, and it just looks so incredible. So I was curious, so I asked him what the game was, because at the time I was a PlayStation 2 player. Which meant I didn't have an Xbox. This was back when it was incredibly rare for a person to have more than one games console, whereas nowadays you get people with about 2 or 3. But anyway, and he told me that the game that he was playing was a game called Halo. And as I said, being a PlayStation 2 player, I had never heard of Halo before seeing it being played right in front of me. And basically he then let me have a go at the game. And I remember the thing that I used to do was, in the second level of Halo, I would always drive the Jeep around the cliff as you're trying to find the 3 Marine squads. And yeah, there were actually a lot of times when I kinda drove off the cliff. But hey, I was a kid. I was pretty much new to the whole thing. But so yeah, I used to always look forward to the next time I'd go around my uncle's house, just because of this Halo game. And believe it or not, my excitement actually grew even more in 2004 when Halo 2 came out. I remember I was going over to my uncle's house expecting to play Halo, like we usually did. In fact, we'd actually gotten to a point. I think we actually got to a point where we started doing campaign missions together. And he was playing this different game. And just from the look of it, I could tell that it was Halo, but it just looked different. And that's when he told me, "Oh, this is Halo 2." And I was just blown away by how good this game looked. And what got me even more was the fact that there were actually missions in the game where you got to play as one of the aliens from the first game. And this was also the first time playing a Halo game that I actually encountered the Flood. When I used to play Halo with my uncle, I never really got far enough into Halo Combat Evolved where you first encounter the Flood. So the Flood was kind of a new thing for me in Halo 2. But I still enjoyed the game, and we even had some fun with the multiplayer, which is still one of my favorite multiplayers to this day. And as I'm sure you can guess, with the pattern growing, my excitement took another leap up a few years later in 2007 when I went round to my uncle's house as usual because my mum was working, and my uncle said that he'd look after me. So I went down there, and he had this new games console that was white, and this was while I was still playing on the PlayStation 2. I had no idea that Microsoft had released another Xbox console. So, and as soon as I looked at the TV, I saw Halo 3. And it was 2007, so I would have been 10 at the time. My 10-year-old mind just went... Yeah, I was just like, oh my god, Halo looks so good. And as per always, we got to playing it a bit more. We got to playing it more, and this was the first time that I actually managed to I think this was the first time I actually managed to competently take on campaign missions in a Halo game all by myself. Yeah, Halo 3 was that big a leap for me. And yeah, I loved Halo 3 so much that Christmas the following year in 2008, the thing that I asked my mum for was an Xbox 360 with Halo 3. Actually, I asked for an Xbox 360 with the original Halo trilogy, but all she could really find was Halo 3. And to be honest, Halo 3 was all I really needed. I did manage to find the other two later down the road, but it was just a case of, as long as I had Halo 3, I was happy. And usually on Christmas I tend to have family. I tend to have family over, including my two younger cousins, and I remember unwrapping this Xbox 360 with the double pack of Lego Indiana Jones and Kung Fu Panda and Halo 3. And I remember as soon as we were allowed to go upstairs, I took the Xbox 360 and the games upstairs. I hooked it all up on my crappy little gray SD TV, and then we just played Halo 3 multiplayer all the way until my younger cousins had to go home. And then I think I spent even longer afterwards just playing through the campaign. And I was just so happy that I finally had this game that I enjoyed playing at my uncle's house, so I could play it at home when I wasn't at my uncle's. However, a few days later, my reality when it comes to gaming just got completely torn to shreds when I did one simple thing. I went online. The Xbox 360 was actually the first time I took my gaming online. And yeah, I remember having to move my Xbox 360 closer to the door of my bedroom just because at first I had to use an Ethernet cable, and the cable was just really short, and the modem was in the room next to mine. So I had to move the modem closer to the door of that room, my Xbox closer to the door of my room, so that I could connect it up. And as soon as I got online, there was one thing that I knew I had to do. I had to go on Halo 3. So I did, and it was even better than I could have possibly imagined. It was like I had seven other people sitting in the same room as me. But the only difference was we didn't have the split screen. It was just one big screen. Now, yes, this doesn't really seem all that impressive nowadays when every console has online capabilities and everyone is on gaming networks, but this is an 11-year-old me who had never gamed online before. This was his first time. This was basically me losing my online gaming virginity, and I'm so glad I had that experience with Halo 3. And to make matters even better, when I started out at secondary school, before I got my Xbox 360, I didn't really have that many friends, and because it was. I mean, sure, when I was younger, I was a bit more loud and out there, but I never really had anything in common with most of the other people I went to school with. However, that all changed when I got an Xbox 360, because I actually started to make some more friends when I was at secondary school, and well, yes, most of them played Call of Duty, because I live in Wellingborough and Call of Duty is pretty much the town's game. I did manage to find a small group of people that also played Halo 3, and so I got their gamer tags, and I added them on Xbox Live, and they were some of the first friends I made in online gaming. In fact, they're still on my Xbox Live friends list to this day. And pretty much we had a thing of we pretty much kept going in every new game that appealed to us. I mean, I even stepped into the realms of Call of Duty, Gears of War, and Battlefield. All because of the fun that I had playing online in Halo 3. However, the following year, I found out about something that I actually managed to find out about something that was interesting. A Halo strategy game, which was known as Halo Wars. And yeah, you can imagine I kind of pestered my mum to get me that game. But here's the thing. I didn't just get the regular edition of the game. I got the special edition of the game, which came with a comic book, the game in a steel case, an extra patch, or well, it's more like a coaster nowadays, and an extra skin for the Covenant Wraith. And yeah, this was the first game in Halo that allowed you to fully control the Covenant and the UNSC. So you weren't just a Spartan or an elite. You pretty much controlled everything. And it was a game that I pretty much played alongside Halo 3 all until the game that got me and my small group of Halo friends excited. Halo 3 ODST. Especially since we were pretty much at the point where we were like, we've pretty much done most of what we can, and we're gonna be gunning for recon now, because this was back during the days when if you had the recon armor, you were considered to be pretty much on God tier when it comes to Halo, because before Halo 3 ODST, you had to either be a member. You had to pretty much be a member of. You pretty much had to be a staff member at Bungie in order to get recon. However, when they released Halo 3 ODST, they expanded the horizons out so that if you got these things called Vidmaster achievements, then you'd get the armor. So we pretty much attempted to gun for the Vidmaster achievements in order to get this recon armor. We never actually got it. But funny story. After a while, I foolishly traded in my copy of Halo 3. But at a car boot sale, I did manage to find a limited edition of Halo 3 that someone was selling. And in the armor section of the customization menu was the recon armor. And I was just like, oh yeah. But anyway, moving on from that, we eventually found out that Bungie, the company that was making the Halo games up to that point, were eventually going to stop making the Halo games. So we were actually kind of saddened by that, but we found out that the people that were in charge of the Halo Waypoint app, this was back when Halo Waypoint was an app, were going to be in charge of it, and we were actually kind of excited. We were actually kind of excited to see that Halo was going to continue on. And as you can guess, we were all excited for Reach. And when we got Reach, it was pretty much the first few days. It was like our faces had turned into puddles of flesh-colored goo. We were that enthralled. Same thing sort of happened when we got Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary and Halo 4. And to be honest, after Halo 4 and when they announced the Xbox One, that was when I kind of stopped playing Halo for a bit. Because this was back when Microsoft made a blunder with advertising the Xbox One. However, I eventually got one just in time for Halo 5 Guardians, which, to be honest, I was kind of disappointed by, but 343 have been making efforts to try and make it better. So yeah, that's pretty much my history with Halo. Yeah, I'm sorry it wasn't exactly it wasn't exactly in a lot of detail when it got to the end bit, but I'm kind of running out of footage here, so yeah. But still, in general, that's pretty much my history with Halo to the best of my memory. But anyway, I hope if you guys have similar stories for a game, then please be sure to leave them down in the comments. And if you liked what you saw, then please be sure to also like and subscribe and share and get notifications. This has been the Zombie Messiah, signing out. Have a good one.